Today's chat is brought to you by the support of our Twitch subscribers. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through the Twitch platform, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a subscriber of the FFC and gaining access to some exclusive features in the Discord server, please be sure to visit our Twitch account and click on the subscribe button. If you're an Amazon Prime member, remember that you do have a free subscription to Twitch every month that can be used for this. And for those of you who are already subscribers, thank you again for your generosity. You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search, focus that fire. And so we come together. Join us. Join the discussion. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat. Welcome back for episode 137 of Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on July 20th over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, I want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Our topic for tonight's episode is going to be a look at the Bray family. But first, let's run through a quick introduction of those on the show for tonight. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86. We also have the man who it has been said has the voice of a flower, an individual who goes by many different names, Justin Sane 0516. Justin, what guys do you have on for us tonight?
That is that of the hot dog pariah. You cannot silence the signal.
For more information about this reference, please listen to the top 3 episodes about sandwiches and the one we recorded this evening. Top 3.
I managed to tie 2 weeks together. You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And derail both of them.
Yes.
Next up,
and nearly derail this one.
So yeah. Next up, we have our own master of social media, the one and only Green Eye Music Lover. Green, I hope you're doing well. How's the week treated you so far?
It's been good. We're back from Guardian Con, and I know we're going to talk about that a tiny bit later, but yeah, I did not get con flu, which is amazing.
Did anyone get that? Did we all survive unscathed from it?
Had a little bit of a conflux.
Well, you also had a little bit more of a late night evening than the rest of us did that night.
I'm just glad that he had some time to get some sleep. You know,
even though it was an hour.
And didn't wake up.
No.
Pins might have picked me up and dressed me.
Yes, Pins is a hero.
He's a real-life hero.
Because Green was not about to pick him up and dress him.
Oh, man. So rounding out the usual team, we have the grizzly bearded cultivator of Spinfoil himself, someone who has been lovingly labeled the Tigger of Destiny lore, the one and only Beard Grizzly.
The Tigger?
Beard, how are you doing? Hey, you know what? I kept it. I'm going to keep it consistent for a couple weeks, and then I'll start introducing the other great tidbits that I've been able to collect.
Are his tops made out of rubber?
What?
Bottoms are made out of
Yes, though, you know, apparently right now he's kind of in a more of an Eeyore-ish mood.
I mean...
Look, I can't help that. You already know what I went through today, so yeah.
Oh, man.
But we
Trying
love
my
you.
best here with what I've got, all right? Like, come on. Give me a little credit here.
Now I wish someone needs to make a meme of Beard with the little Eeyore shack.
Oh, no.
Beard's House of Lore.
House of 1,000 Stories?
Gonna be the House of 1,000 Pains if Blue keeps the frick up.
So finally, once again in the hot seat, as the guest co-host, we have our dear friend PurpleChimera. Purple, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
She's scared now that she knows what she has to deal with me being here.
She met you in person. You're fine.
Oh,
That's-
Twice
you're-
now, and you had a beard this time.
I did.
Ooh.
Last time you didn't. So
yeah.
Or is
You're
that-
bouncy,
Okay.
trouncy, bouncy, trouncy, fun.
Oh God, he looked it up.
wow, that's the wonderful thing about stickers is
That I'm the only
He's
one.
the only one.
My mother may have been or is still a fan of Winnie the Pooh, so I have that very well memorized.
I will just let you know I was watching Winnie the Pooh with my children earlier this afternoon. It's wonderful.
It's a class.
It's gonna carry on. It's just gonna carry on. That's all it is. Also, side note, Disney reference.
Yes.
Yes.
Before we even get into it.
Yeah, it's just the intro, and we already have the Disney reference. Look at that.
Well, and speaking of getting into it, last week we asked the community what their favorite part of Guardian Con 2018 was. And Green, I'm pretty sure we got a good amount of responses, not just including our own.
Yeah, a lot of people were just real. The overarching thing was like a lot of people were happy with the new venue, which was a huge improvement in my opinion as well. They're still like working out kinks as far as like the organization of it, and I get that. It's still a fairly developing con. But yeah, people were excited to meet us. Grundy was really excited to meet Justin. I think I saw that a couple of different times. Mentioned like maybe 3 or 4 times at this point. So he's a fan. He's definitely a fan, Justin.
I'm a fan of his. Yeah, I was just as excited to meet him. So yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of wanted to throw that to us because I know a lot of people were excited about the venue and seeing their different favorite content creators. But I wanted to hear what your guys' thoughts were too. What you thought was your like favorite moment of the con, because I know we got to see a slightly different perspective compared to some people.
Mm-hmm. I want Purple, as guest. Let's let her go first.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I loved hanging out with you guys. It was really fun in person, which was really exciting. But honestly, I just love meeting all the people and being able to put faces to, usernames and gamer tags and all that stuff. It's really nice to be able to chat with people and to be able to recognize people because I'm really super an awkward person with strangers.
No.
So it's really it's really great to be able to like think that I'm meeting somebody new, but then it turns out that it's actually someone I'm really good friends with and I've just never met them in person before. And so that's a really wonderful feeling.
Yeah. It's nice to put gamer tags with faces.
Yes.
Blue, what about you?
I'm still
moment?
honestly in shock that we apparently made the cut as some people's favorite content creators.
Right.
I won't lie. I probably will never get used to that idea that, that's a thing. And that's not like
It was really bizarre to
Oh, go
it
for
was
it.
really bizarre to sign It was really bizarre to sign autographs for like over an hour.
Right?
Yeah, that was one of the things. I mean, and it's just it's definitely like I don't know, like
it's humbling.
It definitely is, and it's also just kind of like I don't know. I don't think of us as that. I don't like for us, for our side, we're just getting together to have a conversation, and we include as much as we can with you guys, the community, obviously. I don't know. I don't think of us as like anything super.
We don't make money off of what we're doing.
Elite or anything like. Yeah, I don't really. But so yeah, I mean, like it's really humbling. It's really it brings together the idea that. And the biggest thing for me was meeting people who might not have known who we were, and then explaining to them what we do, and then how they respond to our community as a whole, like how inviting and how inclusive our group has been to people. We had a large number of people jump into the Discord this past week, and just seeing how welcome everyone is making, all the new faces, bringing them together, explaining stuff that, a lot. I know I've been in other communities where differing opinions is looked down upon and belittled. And that's one of the big things that I really, really don't like in pretty much any community. And so watching our community kind of rise above that and be better, has always just, it's just blown me away. And that's my favorite part of, introducing new people to our family. So yeah.
Beard, what about your favorite moment?
Just the fact that we're, able to collect ourselves again, come together, so on, and just notice like how big and how creative this community can be.
Mm-hmm.
Like realistically, we see it on a typical on like a typical basis with like Twitter and everything. But even then, we only see like a microcosm of what that community relation really is.
Right.
And then suddenly we end up picking into like finding out like different players or people that we haven't even met before, or they've never really like come up through our algorithms because machine learning is a piece of garbage. And that's the biggest thing that I'm always like. I'm thankful for that we have these groupings and gatherings, because I get to meet people that I otherwise probably would never be able to meet. And as usual, it's very different to meet them in person versus being able to just talk with them over a piece of social media. So for me, that's the between this year and last year has been the most exciting thing for me, because it allowed me to, of course, meet up with you guys, and that has obviously been like one of the better things that has happened to me over the course of the last year. And I kind of hope that is what happens with many others that are able to go to community style events like this, and why I hope that the community event is more the focal point as time goes by, as it should be. Like that's what we're all going for, is to kind of meet up with each other, and it isn't just meeting up and seeing just Bife. It's being able to sit and meet, to be able to catch up with you guys. It's being able to catch up and finally meet Gamma Trap in person. That was the first time I've ever been able to do that with him. To be able to meet up with the DCP guys again, where I would like to think I'm at a different position now within the community than I was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a humbling experience when you walk around and start to talk to people and they know you by like who you are all of a sudden. It's very different. It's a very different experience. And that's even the case with like some of the people that I saw even like last year as well. Like I got to meet up with a couple people that I was able to chat with last year, and I won't name any names in case they don't like to be called out, but it was fantastic just to see, fans and be able to like talk with them as well. So for me, like overall, if I just want to put a ribbon on all of this, just the idea of community has been the most important thing for me. And I was just so thrilled to be able to see how talented this community is, how together this community can become, how still the Gambit line was like the largest thing that was over at the con. It still shows like Destiny itself is very strong, and the appeal for it is still there, and it still influences a lot of people day in and day out, whether others will want to admit to that or not. So yeah, just great to see what this community is made of and able to do, because it continues to surprise me each and every day.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little afraid to ask Justin.
Okay. Can I just, before I say anything about my favorite moments of Guardian Con or anything like that, can I just tell everybody just something I learned? And that is, Beard Grizzly is a big old softy. He's a
Yes.
super sweet big old softy. And I always kind of wondered, you know, when he groans and he hits his desk and is he really thinking, Justin, you're an idiot? Why are you talking? Yeah, he might be thinking those things, but I'll tell you something I learned. I'll tell you something I learned. I sat across from him at dinner after the second day of Guardian, and I would make.
He learned not to lie to his waitress.
We'll get to that. But
all right, I'm just making sure this one doesn't go under the bus. All right, we gotta.
I learned that Beard Grizzly, whenever I say something stupid, has two main reactions. The first one is to grimace and make an audible noise. The second one, which I did not expect, is he smiles.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I just hope you know this. Anytime I say something stupid on the podcast, you're going to make some remonstration and make me think that you hated it, but I'm going to picture you smiling. So you did that, not me. But yeah, just like getting to see and also meet Green for the first time.
Yeah.
I mean, Blue's old news. I mean, but we no, I'm just kidding. Your family.
Don't lie.
But,
haven't we learned about this?
Yeah, like getting to kind of meet all the people you spend so much screen time with is really awesome, because there's nothing quite as unique as seeing someone in real life for the first time that you're so comfortable with, but you've only spoken to them over various VoIP applications and a video game and other things. It's so crazy when you just kind of meet that person and just jump into the pocket of that relationship that's been there the whole time. And it's just an in-person interaction now. Like when I met Green, there was no like, oh my God, I've never seen you before. It was like, oh my God, I've never seen you before.
Yeah.
But,
I may have almost gotten tackled. It's
just
fine.
a little bit. But yeah, like that's definitely a highlight for me. I think probably the highlight of the entire convention for me, and I won't go on because I could probably make it a 2-hour show just out of this, but just like saying all my favorite moments, but was when a listener of ours, and don't worry, Beard, we'll get to the waitress story in post show, but when a listener of ours was very tentatively standing around the fringes of the crowd, and
oh my God, yes,
I was kind of thinking like he was wanting to see Guardian Radio and see Turk and K-Dub. And I was like, I always try to jump out of everyone's way so that I'm not getting between. These people like get real emotional when they like go see Bife, and I don't want to be in the way of somebody. Like, get on in there. And so I was trying to get out of this dude's way, but every time I jumped out of his way, he would like, it was like a game of cat and mouse, like back and forth. And then I realized he was trying to get to me, and then he walks up to me with 2 hot dogs in his hand and said, Justin? I said, yes. And he's like, I bought you a sandwich.
And oh my God, I had already said hi to him, and I saw him. I was like, okay, I was thinking the same thing. I turn around and Justin has the sandwich in his hand. I'm like, oh my God.
Not a sandwich.
This is amazing. I have a photo of it. Justin eating a sandwich that was given to him.
It was the highlight.
Oh my God, it was so good.
I'm the only person I know who will have to eat his argument. Like if I don't know, but the individual's name, I don't know if he called out or not, but I'm just gonna go. Is Doom for Zombies. He's actually in chat, and it was great. That was the highlight of my Guardian Con experience.
Oh my God.
Just being like, not only do you listen to the podcast, but you caught that random argument, that happened in pre-show the week before, and it was just awesome. No worries, Doom. But that was freaking awesome. So anyways, thanks for the sandwich, Doom.
Oh yes, and I have it on tape.
And I'll get to the waitress in post-show.
Yes, that is also a good story. My favorite moment of Guardian Con happens to be just a random small moment that is actually memorialized on videotape forever. And we kind of sort of touched on it a tiny bit in between the two shows. And it was when Baxter, we were exhausted on day 2. We're sitting in the VIP lounge, just relaxing. Blue had already passed out, and I've already trolled him with a photo on it. And Baxter comes over, him and Purple sit down, and Baxter starts singing. And I'm just like, and we all just, we kind of join in, and we're all just sitting here really tired and just randomly singing at Guardian Con, and no one questions it. We just do it. And it's like, oh my God, it's really cool when you can meet a group of people who are comfortable enough to just randomly break out in song like a musical. It's kind of a lame moment showing my nerddom.
What
beyond.
song was it?
It was from the Beatles.
We were singing American Pie.
Oh no,
It was I don't know if you could hear me because I was on the other side and it was pretty noisy, but we were singing together.
Yeah. We have an audio clip of it / video clip. Penn's caught it, at least part of it, and it's just such a sweet moment. And
he's a sweet guy.
God, yeah, he is.
I love him so much.
Oh man,
he's awesome.
He is such a neat guy.
Speaking of meeting people, this was the first time I've ever met Baxter in person.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time that a lot of people had ever even seen Baxter.
Yes.
Baxter does exist, even though he is a frame. He's a frame.
I thought he was a golden age
experiment.
Yeah, experiment in
he writes like platform. One. He writes like one.
He does. He has amazing handwriting, which I knew. He and I have video chatted a lot, but we'd never met in person before, even though we've been working together for over 2 years now. 2.5 years. So
yeah,
he's really awesome, and I love him, and he's my favoriteest person ever.
He's such a sweetheart. And he's asleep.
Yeah, and he's asleep.
Or he's working.
No, he's probably asleep.
He better be asleep.
The lore mom reveals itself.
That's the lore mom, yes.
Oh, okay. Short story. Purple is lore mom to the extreme. Like I used to get teased for being lore mom in our chat. Purple, you have taken that crown from me.
Have you eaten today? Have you had anything to drink?
This woman chased Bite around, making sure that he had food and drinks. It was amazing.
This is what had happened. Okay, we go to lunch. Bife, like before the lore panel, Bife does not come with us to lunch. Bife says, "Hey, can you bring us some food back?" We're like, "Sure, we can totally sneak food into the super security place."
Totally smuggled in.
And Green totally did because she's amazing.
Well, and the best part was the message that got sent. Hey, Bife, Green smuggled you a Cuban. That was it. No context, nothing other than that message. It was the most random message to get. It was like, you smuggled a what now? Oh, you mean the sandwich. That makes more sense.
Baxter clarified it because he figured that Bife might not understand what we were talking about. But we were in Florida. I mean, I knew what you meant.
Right.
Florida.
Don't think about it. It's fine.
Just got the message and I was like, I had to do a double take because I'm like, wait, hang on.
I smuggled a small person.
You smuggled a small person in? What did you? Why? Oh, you're talking about the sandwich. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So then by the time we get to Bife, it's like everyone's like, oh no, running around, being crazy, trying to get ready for the panel. And then we have the lore panel, and then we signed autographs for over an hour, and it was insane and amazing. Mm-hmm. And then the line finally started dying down. Thank you, Pens and Festive Potato and my husband for stopping the line. And I'm like, Bife, you need to eat. You need to sit right here and eat food. And he's like, but I want to talk to the people. And I'm like, no, you need to eat now. And he's like, fine. He opens up his backpack and in true like young person fashion pulls out a brownie. I was like, I know you have a sandwich in there. I know that we brought you a sandwich. And he's like, fine. So he sits down. And as he pulls the sandwich out, I pull out a bottle of hand sanitizer. And I hand it to him.
Oh my God.
I have never in my life been looked at with such adoration at the moment that I handed Bife a bottle of hand sanitizer.
I love it.
It was
Such good
amazing.
moments. Such good
And then I
moments.
yelled at him for not drinking any water the next day, or eating anything, because he didn't eat anything that day either. And I
It's
was
really
very
easy.
upset.
It's real easy to forget. Yeah. Man, Guardian Con moment. Blue?
Sorry, I'm reading chat react to Purple's story. So yeah, we'll run through our standard intro here real quick, and then we'll jump right into the conversation. In our last episode of Focus Fire Chat, we discussed our extra lore topic for June, Star Wars. If you ever miss an episode and would like to catch up, please be sure to check out FocusFireChat.com for archives, articles, and links to the other aspects of Focus Fire Chat. If you don't mind, please rate and, if you can, review the show on iTunes, Podbean, or whichever podcasting app you use to enjoy podcasts. Reviews are extremely helpful as they not only let us know what we can do better, but help us stay on the charts, which helps others find our amazing community. To those of you who have already taken the time to leave us a review, thank you. As many of you already know, Focus Fire Chat is a cross-community gathering where the intent is to offer a week-long, in-depth view of a particular subject from within the lore of Destiny and other games. This chat begins every Tuesday morning and runs until the following Tuesday, with topics decided by the group via a poll that begins every Friday and ends on the Tuesday morning of the new chat. Every Friday at around 10 p.m. Central, we get together to stream a high-level summary of the previous week's chat for those who were unable to participate. Please be sure to also give some support to the other podcasts in the Guardian Radio Network, links of which can be found on our website. If you're a fan of lore in all its various forms, be sure to also check out thelorenetwork.com, where you can find a wide variety of some amazing content covering a number of different titles and mediums. Our next chat is going to be a discussion on the abilities of Osiris. Please note that there is not going to be a poll this weekend, as we are going to set aside next week's discussion for a summarization of the extra lore content. With all this being said, here's Green with a high-level summary of tonight's topic.
In the pre-Cryptokian system, humanitarian-based offenses are considered especially heinous. In the last city, the dedicated guardians who investigate these various events are members of an elite squad known as the Focus Fire Chat. These are their stories. Clovis Bray family. Known family members. Clovis Bray, head of Clovis Bray Corp. Clovis Bray II, son of Clovis Bray. Known surname members. Alton Bray, author of Trials and Triumphs. Dr. Willa Bray, Ngram developer and head of secret research projects based on nanotechnology. Anna Bray, cryptolinguist assigned to Rasputin. Elsie Bray, weapons research and development. Reason for disappearance, unknown.
Before we jump into the information and thoughts that the community had about the Bray family, however, let's have a quick chat about this week's Lost Lore. I'm gonna allow the
I'm really confused.
moment for Purple to respond.
I love you so much.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask a question? Can I be IC? So what you're telling me is this guy Clovis made nanites?
Could you imagine Ice Cube trying to talk to Clovis Bray?
Oh my god.
Purple's broken. Purple's broken. We're done.
Hey, you know it wasn't Clovis. He was framed.
You know, I mean, as far as mob boss type characters or mob family, I thought it was quite appropriate.
That's awesome.
It was great.
Amazing.
I was trying to think of something to do this week that would be kind of fun and silly because gotta keep it light. But dang. You know how hard it is to find music that sounds somewhat similar to the Law and Order theme that isn't going to get us copyright pinged?
I don't need an email from Dick Wolf. Okay.
Yeah, that would be
really appreciate that.
on the next episode of Law and Order Focus Fire Chat.
Sued.
Oh man.
Well, I know with the top 3 and the little diatribe that took place, that, and then also with recounting Guardian Con, we ran a little bit long with that piece. Do we want to jump over Lost Lore this week, or is there something that you guys really wanted to discuss?
I think a lot of the Lost Lore is going to be tied into it because, like, Alton's story is super short as far as like what we know about him. So, as far as connecting back to D1, we've got a lot that we're going to be talking about anyway.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's kind of Bray in general, right?
Yeah.
Bray. I mean, there's large chunks of this entire episode that could be considered Lost Lore.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So, and to kind of jump in, I'm going to let Purple actually lead the charge because my understanding is that we just have a hot off the press summary of the Clovis Bray family available at.
It's actually for the organization that they founded, and which is different from the family, but also relevant because they were all super involved.
Right. So real quick, Purple, on that, can you explain that just a little? Because I know that might be a little confusing for some people too. So
yes,
we have a difference, right, between the Clovis Bray Corporation and the Clovis Bray family.
Right. So, as is tradition, seemingly most places, there was a person named Clovis Bray who founded a company and named it after himself. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to ishtar-collective.net and go to categories, you will see that there is a category called Clovis Bray, which is about the company. And then there's a category called the Bray family, which basically just has one sentence that lists the known members of the family.
Which, by the way, still confuses me because Purple said, I updated the summary. I went to the Bray family and I was like, no, you didn't. It's still the same sentence.
And the Clovis Bray organization category is also a new category that I just created this week. So if you haven't been to the site recently, you might have cached. If it doesn't show up, just refresh your website. Anyway, so all of the members that we know of the family were also involved in the company, as family businesses are wont to do. So it all gets very convoluted and confusing. Especially when you get into discussions like, how is everyone related to each other?
Mm-hmm.
Are they related to each other?
Are they biologically related to each other or not?
Just that we know of.
Yeah. Are they all just collaborators?
Mm-hmm.
Well, so they all presumably have the last name Bray, in the sense that they are all called something Bray.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm operating under the presumption that in the Golden Age, traditional naming conventions have not been shed. Maybe that's too big of a leap, but I don't know that we really want to go down that rabbit hole. So
well, I mean, I think that's a safe presumption because for instance, not to jump too far ahead, but for instance, for Anna, like, we know that Anna is not a biological relation to the Bray family, but she specifically says that she was adopted into the Bray.
Right.
And so she was given the surname. You know, Green's intro kind of made a light, joke about that. Those with the surname. I mean, the only ones that we don't know are, obviously the others. but we know specifically that Anna was not biologically related. It does seem that Elsie was. That's kind of the feeling I kind of get, but I don't think there's anything definitive on that.
There's nothing conclusive, I don't think.
Go ahead.
The son is the only one that we know is a bio. Well, even then, it's just like you don't even know if he's biological. You just know he calls him father.
And he makes reference to his grandfather.
Right.
So at least that he has known this person as a father his whole life and thinks his father to be his grandfather. But someone with as big a god complex as Clovis Bray,
supposedly.
I don't really think. Yeah, well, no. Not
I mean, I just, because Beard and I have had multiple conversations about this. There's been some developments, especially with Warmind, that really kind of question or put into question whether or not he was as narcissistic as we originally think.
No, I'm not necessarily applying some sort of negative, kind of bent on it, but I am saying that Clovis, there's a little bit of narcissism there. But
right. I mean, he's the classic Type A personality.
He starts talking about the solar system as a map and him reaching off the map and pulling colors onto it that don't exist. I mean, they're someone with that level of, ambition and the ego that must go with that, because there must be some ego that accompanies that kind of ambition. I don't think it's beyond him to just slap the Bray tag on individuals whom he feels personifies it best. It wouldn't surprise me if he had an array of adopted children that he simply saw promise in and kind of promoted. Just hearing him talk about how he has no employees, he only has titles are not like very foremost in this man's mind. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm just saying that it's not beyond the bounds of reason.
I can see that. I can totally see that. Purple, did you have any? I'm sorry, we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there.
No,
no, it's totally fine. And that's the thing about like the Brays and the company, like it's all very like mixed up together. Because like you have Willa, who people seem to think is old, like
Willa seems to be the matron,
the
almost
mom,
figure.
like the matron. Yeah, possibly, but we have no actual evidence for that. It's just like that's kind of how it feels. Like, and then you get into things like with Warmind and the way that Anna talks about Elsie, is more of a sibling type relationship, and then you bring up the question like, well, was she adopted as an infant or a young child and they were brought up as sisters, or is this more of a like, we found you as a teenager or young adult and we liked the way your brain worked and we sort of brought you in, and now you have this weird sibling style relationship, but it's like
right. And it does seem like Alton it seems like Alton is also a sibling of Elsie and Anna, because I just blanked, the sparrow that they basically fixed for him, or they fixed and he's talking. It kind of seems like I almost get the feeling that Alton was like a little brother figure to Anna and Elsie. That's again, going back, entirely supposition there. And then Willa,
Alton's ambush.
Yes,
Alton.
yes. Yeah, and then, but for Willa, for me, the reason is because of the entire, the entire Siva fragments, but then also the way that Elsie as the Exo Stranger kind of talks about her, about, Willa hunting her through the halls. And then you have like, is it I know Beard and I always flip this one, the 18 Kelvin sidearm, where it's like, Willa's gone crazy. Everyone take weapons. Like, you don't know what this crazy lady's gonna do.
That's correct.
I get the sense that she was kind of, if not the mother figure, at least.
The only one I would disagree with you on is Alton, just because there's Alton Dynamo, which is one of the locations that we get to go to. So
that's like the only area that's named after one of the Bray?
Well, we don't know if they're named after it, but yes, they share a name.
Or is he named after it?
No, because we know Alton already exists when.
But we don't know when the Dynamo was. Because if you look at it from the war, like this, just to kind of debate that a little bit. We know that Alton, was around, because we assume that Alton was around prior. But if you look at the actual Dynamo, kind of like the apparent history of the Golden Age that we can surmise a little bit from, I'd almost argue that Futurescape was around before Meridian Bay. And in that case, though, it would mean that, because Alton wrote his, what is it, the
Trials and
Triumphs. That was all about Meridian Bay, if I remember correctly.
That was on the Meridian
Bay on the Meridian Bay card. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it just about Clovis Bray, or was it?
It just says it's a quote from his book, presumably. A great city is a place where man competes with the gods. Okay. It's just the Meridian Bay card from OG Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
It's all I was saying. It's far from confirmed, but it definitely seems in Clovis Bray 2 in the Ghost Fragment that that Clovis Bray is already setting up in Hellas Basin, and it seems to me that Alton is the speaker in this card, or the
right,
the child,
the voice.
So it's not I'm not saying
that's interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
So you think Alton is the?
Yeah. I think
not Clovis Bray the second.
I think it's Alton.
It's real hard to assign it either way, but it's
I know. I definitely. Going back to supposition and presumptions, I have always assumed that was Clovis Bray the second.
Okay, well, let me just
or as I gave Beard a headache earlier this week, Clovis Bray 2.
But
you just completely screwed me. So
the Clovis Bray card, you're talking about Ghost Fragment Clovis Bray
2.
2, the second one?
Oh no! It's Ghost Fragment Clovis Bray, an excerpt from an unpublished memoir of Clovis Bray II.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Man, you were throwing me for a loop there too. I was
read
like,
the whole thing, Justin.
Man, if Justin did as much prep as he did for his hot dog dialogue.
Listen,
I was really impressed. I was real impressed with that, by the way.
Okay. Honestly, what you were messing was the very fabric of reality. I felt like Ant-Man in the quantum realm. I had to set things. I had to make things okay for the children. So I'm proud of my work there.
You should be. I was impressed.
National Hot Dog and Sausage Council.
Which, by the way, I tweeted out the thing about like making people talk about things that are like slightly uncomfortable for them, like getting them to talk about it. It was National Hot Dog Day that day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had mentioned the hot dog thing. Anyway.
That's a day of healing.
Yeah.
Well,
so
it's interesting that you brought up Clovis Bray 2, the Ghost Fragment Clovis Bray 2, because since it immediately follows Ghost Fragment Clovis Bray, obviously, you do kind of operate under the assumption that it's the same narrator.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no indication that it is. Like, it doesn't have that subheader like the first one does.
That's a fair point too.
And it talks about, that someone's coming here new, a place that I've dreamed of since I was a boy with a telescope, right? And then it says, Dr. Willa Bray herself came to congratulate me. If Dr. Willa Bray is the matron of the family, as we are presuming, and like it wouldn't make sense for Clovis Bray Jr. or Clovis Bray II to say that sentence if that's like his mom or his grandma. Like,
well, this one is this card. The voice in this card is the person who takes the place of the people doing the original SIVA project research. Because this card comes from Rise of Iron.
Yes.
I don't remember that person's name though off the top of my head.
Shirazi?
Shirazi.
They're in
the person taking the place of Shirazi?
Correct.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. Willa Bray says you'll be able to expand soon into the
that's
space
right,
currently occupied by the Shirazi lab.
What happened to him? They decided to move on. Like, no, did they now?
All we know is that person is exceedingly naive. That's all we know about that person. He's like, why would you move on? This place is great.
I can't imagine a better place.
There's so much room for activities.
Except for you can't go outside because it's cold.
Oh my gosh. Now I have the Futurescape as Step Brothers stuck in my head. Yeah. That's not fun.
So we don't know exactly how Alton is related. It can kind of inferred that Alton has a relationship at least with, was it Elsie who fixed the sparrow?
Yes.
Anna. I thought it was Anna.
Or Anna.
Is that Alton's ambush?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Elsie could make it go faster.
Elsie.
Yes.
Yep. So at least there's a connection there in that way, whether or not it's
called. Why is it called Alton's ambush though?
Maybe it was his sparrow.
Maybe he was.
Why? What's the significance of?
Do you think he got ambushed by a bunch of thrall?
No.
I just love Purple's response.
I don't know what to believe. Okay,
it might have been his sparrow.
It's not called Alton's sparrow.
Thanks, Purple. We knew we could count. We knew we could count on you.
So
that's what I'm here for.
Should we move on to one of the other Brays, like Willa Bray, like the most stepmothery of
oh my gosh. Is it bad of me that all I can see is like the evil stepmother from Snow White when I think of Willa Bray? Like,
because she's been painted as such a very cold person.
And to be fair, right, and to be fair on that note, going off that, I will admit that we have a very biased presentation, right? Because we really actually I take that back. We have some dialogue from Willa herself with the Siva fragments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I still think I don't know. If of all of them, I'm more in line with thinking that Willa is the one to be really afraid of than any of them.
Well, and she's the one who successfully, made the breakthrough to go to create engrams.
Mm-hmm. From the relic crystals,
which
I will continuously bug Purple about.
It's a huge breakthrough that leads to all kinds of other technologies.
Right.
Like that unlocks lots of different things.
Right.
So.
Well, and to go down that a little bit too, I mean, because isn't the engram is described as a fourth form of matter? Like, I mean, that's how big of a discovery that is. Like, it's a massive discovery.
So here's a question for you. I was debating this when I was writing the introduction.
Fifth. Thank you, Black Flag.
Yes. what was Willow Bray's job within the Futurescape area?
To take out the
'Cause-
trash.
No, I mean, besides the mobster, shove him in a type, the back of the car type thing, and the trunk of the car.
I got you some new boots.
I was very tempted to put her into research and development, like Elsie is listed as being, but she's not a weapons research and development.
I
necessarily.
honestly, I saw like all the mentions of her. She seems like the administrator.
Yeah,
Which kind of ties
project manager.
Right, and that ties into my viewing her as like the matron, is because she's the one that it seems like, you know, when Shirazi kind of started questioning stuff and then suddenly he took an opportunity somewhere else, you know, he found a better position or whatever, you know, however you want to talk about that. She kind of was the one that was explaining, oh no, it's going to be emptied out here shortly. You know, she was organizing all this other stuff going on.
She does still have a hand in actual research, though. I mean, she had a direct hand in the SIVA project. She also had the breakthrough with the engrams, which we were just talking about.
But, and I guess this is where I kind of argue too, because with the engram research aside, like that, which I mean, that's very tough to say because it's a very important aspect of the research. But like all that aside, I think everything else I kind of read as she was project managing it. So like the SIVA stuff, if you read the God, I just blanked on what they call, but the little SIVA clusters. If you read it, it's like the dormant whatever, the little cluster bombs that don't explode. If you read the conversation between her and the general, it kind of strikes me as like a project manager being like, oh no, this is what we're doing. And then the general's like, let's talk about the possibilities. I mean, that to me, that doesn't read like, oh, this is a researcher. That reads as this is a project manager interfacing with a potential client, you know, gauging what they can do.
So here's a thought. We know that the development of the engram was this like breakthrough that caused this cascade of development and technology, right? It affected a whole bunch of different things. So what if Willa was first like a researcher, right? And she developed, she had this breakthrough with the engram, and then after that,
she got promoted.
It became such a huge thing that she's now overseeing all these different projects.
I totally couldn't buy it. I would totally buy that. And
so rather than being like in the lab, she kind of gets promoted or whatever, however you want to say it, to be more of an overseer, of an administrative type position, so that she can manage all these different projects that the development of the engram had an effect on.
I like the term overseer because it has the negative connotation that I have with Willa. Like, and I mean, to again, reiteration here, this is all like my supposition. Like, there is nothing definitive about Willa being like super evil, other than like a lot of inference on some of the comments that we have from her. And then, I mean, because you can also, if I try really, really hard, I can also read some of the SIVA clusters as Willa kind of being like, I don't want to do weapon, research, because I think there's a few there where she's talking about it purely in the sense of colonization tools. And you can kind of see the general being like, oh, and I think you could read it that way as well. I don't really, I mean, like, I still kind of think that the whole, I don't know, I'm kind of ruined about megacorporations from my exposure to science fiction in general. Like, usually you don't see megacorporations portrayed in a
nice way,
beneficial manner within science fiction. Like, that's usually not
Really?
I'm trying really hard to think of any that come to none come to mind. But that all being said, I don't know. I just Willa has that, like, all the other Brays, including Clovis, like, with the information. And that being said, we could get a new information with Forsaken, or with some other development later down the road that completely changes our interpretation of Willa as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because up until Warmind, we all thought Clovis was evil Sisyphus and, this narcissistic god wannabe, god complex individual. And honestly, after some of the stuff that Warmind opened up, the theories now are kind of like, there's a potential that his motivations are more nuanced than initially we thought, which is the great thing about, new information, or, if I even dare say the word, retcons, because retcons don't necessarily are negative. It's called clarification. But, I think that putting that possibility aside, with the information that I've seen so far, I kind of now ascribe Willa more as and that could be jealousy of her new position too. That's not something that would be new, is if Purple going on that train of thought. Willa makes this big discovery with engrams, which, is revolutionary as it is. And then along comes, Elsie and Anna. We don't, again, not sure on the relation here, but Anna is kind of heralded as a savant when it comes to tinkering, and so is Elsie. Elsie's over here blending Hive and Vex technologies because she has friends at the Ishtar, and Anna is, making new and ingenious developments with technology, and maybe Willa is territorial, maybe what we're picking up on is jealousy from Willa.
Yeah, well, and maybe if it's not even like territorial, but like if she got kind of relegated to an administrative position because there was just too much to manage, she might be just jealous that they get to work in a lab and she doesn't.
That's
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 what
true
she
too.
Obviously wanted to do. Like, you have to expect that she has some level of passion for what she's doing in order to be able to get as far as she got.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, like, if then the next step is, congratulations, you just came up with this really amazing thing, now be an administrator. Like, right. I would be pissed off.
Well, and I can see that. You also see that with like the stereotypical, soldier stories where it's like, Halo, you see that a lot with Master Chief and, Johnson. Like, they keep trying to promote him and he's like, nope, I'm good. Like, I'm just going to stay right here. I don't want the promotion, and all that. They want to be in the field. So, that's also, that being said, that seems like a little bit of a petty reason to try to kill someone over, but...
Well...
People have done worse things for less.
We've kind of talked about Willa's position within the company, but the only thing we have about Clovis's position in the company comes from that same ghost fragment, Clovis Bray.
Mm-hmm.
And all that we know is that they were there.
We do have the Sisyphus project reference.
Right.
The Minion Ring, which is like one of the only reasons I played a Warlock in D1.
But we don't have any really new developments about Clovis Bray himself or the Sun in D2.
No, we don't. We had there were some and so there were implications in Warmind with the revelation of like the whole Nokris situation and the whole Futurescape being built on a Hive graveyard, but not directly. I don't think we have any that comes to mind, any new information about them. which is sad because I really want to know his motivations. Like, I'm really curious about Clovis Bray himself as to like, I mean, just the Exoscience program in general. Like, what's the inspiration for that?
Sisyphus Project.
The Sisyphus Project, which is just an amazing name for a project.
Yes.
Sorry, Green. Go ahead.
No. I was just trying to think. Is like we've kind of talked about the Brays that we don't have a ton of information on. Do we want to talk about the two Brays that we know a lot more, that we learned a lot more about during Warmind? With Anna and Elsie?
We definitely shouldn't let them be strangers.
Oh.
Can
we?
Is there time?
Get out, both of you. I'm done with you both.
See, I didn't even do it. This.
Wow. That's the pun that broke the camel's back, apparently.
Should we start with Elsie?
I think Elsie would be easy to start with, and honestly, I think Elsie will lead kind of naturally into conversation about Anna.
Mm-hmm.
As well as, like I've kind of hinted at, there's a bit of theory crafting that Beard and I have done about Elsie, with the revelation of some of the information from Forsaken, and I stress heavily that it's theory crafting. But I mean, yeah. So you guys, or Green, do you want to start with a high overview? I know I've been kind of dominating the chat here with my babbling.
I mean, I was going to actually toss it to Beard if he wanted to.
Okay, yeah, definitely
talk about that.
Sure. We just wanted to hop right in on like Elsie and the thoughts that we have surrounding her, why she exists, etc. Right?
Yeah, I think.
Can we do an overview on how we know that she's the Exo Stranger?
Okay. So the biggest thing that really like nailed it, there's a few pieces really. First was the lost memory fragments that you're able to shoot, collect, etc. around Mars, because it makes a lot of sense to collect information that you should probably shoot it. But in terms of what those memories had actually held for us was pretty cool, because it gave us insight into Elsie Bray as a person. Because beforehand, the only thing we really knew about her was she took the Eon Trespass and just like she jumped down. Like there was no other information about her or anything like that. And then, of course, with these lost memory fragments, we actually started to realize, there's a little bit more behind her. They are, both her and Anna are officially like sisters or sister figures. And then from there, it kind of just built off that you find that she's this engineering genius, and she has a lot more going for her than meets the eye, which is really cool to see. Just like how her as a character, as underdeveloped as she was all of a sudden being pushed to a whole different level of development, like almost very quickly. After the lost memory fragments, we had another little puzzle that popped up, and it was a code that was hanging around in with Rasputin's stuff, and it took the guys at the Raid Secrets subreddit to really get a handle on like what was going on with that, which I loved that little puzzle that was spanning and going on there for a while. Yeah, there's those bits and pieces which we've come to find out that there's a little bit more behind the stranger than we had thought before. With little hints and so on that she kind of left for us in that puzzle. I would love to be able to actually grab a hold of said writing because I have it written down, but if anybody has it handy, that'll be something to reference.
Oh, you're talking about the hidden message that they decode. I was actually thinking while you were talking, I was thinking two little things. On the note of what they found, if you have not already, I really strongly encourage this, go over to the subreddit Raid Secrets, or I'm sure it's on Destiny the game at this point. But the actual coins that were included, Beard, have you looked at those?
I have not actually.
Oh my gosh, they're so cool. So they actually say it's a picture of like the Exoscience diamond or whatever with a keyhole, and it says Clovis Bray, don't be a stranger. So it was another kind of little nod there. Little nod. Yeah. And then also on the lost memory fragments, the explanation as to why we shoot them was in one of the data. What are they called? The little cubes. Hang on, let me see. I have one with me. Let me see if I can.
The little ducks?
No, the lost memory fragments. It was the. Hang on. Yeah, 25 days till divergence. It's the lost memory fragment, and it's, as an engineer, I wish I could bottle inspiration. You never know when it'll hit. For instance, this morning I was servicing some Hephaestus field units, test nodes that are meant to gauge weapon effectiveness in a variety of field conditions, and I had an idea. The nodes are mobile enough that they could be easily hidden and reconfigured to need specific weapon data to activate. If someone is smart enough, they could easily arrange the nodes to serve as a locking mechanism, one that's hidden right in plain view. So that was the when I read that, I kind of took that as the explanation as to why the different memory nodes actually require different elemental damage to be done.
Right.
And actually why we shoot them is because they are actually they're actually weapon testing nodes. So
lore explanations for game mechanics. Yay!
I know, it's amazing, right? It's almost like this was planned.
Yeah, really.
Shh, don't tell anybody. Sorry, Green threw that into chat, I think.
I was going to say I did find it in my books too. I was admittedly killing Nokris, so that was the only reason I was not able to get back to looking at it. But that said, yeah, I have it here for it. Now keep in mind this the order of which all of this should go is pretty much mem fragment 1 through 5. And then from there, reading this message afterward kind of makes everything make sense. But I know we've talked about this before, but like it really does stand to be reiterated over and over again, just for the sake of like listening to it. Because I know I read it a few times and I pick up like a couple of extra pieces each time I read over these fragments in this message. But anyway, thank you for taking the time to piece together this message, friend. The time of our final conflict is drawing closer, and you and Anna have an important role to play in the events to come. So watch over her, Guardian. I would have no life without Anna or the Exo program. I have regret we have become strangers, but we each have a path that we must walk. And, ironically, there never seems to be enough time. Tell her Rasputin's first attempt was in the right location, but the wrong moment. Look here. And then we end up getting coordinates that actually led back to Sleeping Beauty?
Sleeping Beauty.
Mountain.
Sleeping Beauty. I thought it was a mountain.
Or
mountain range.
It was a hiking trail.
Hiking trail on a mountain, yeah. But dual nature on that because the sleeper simulant actually has its intrinsic perk changed. I'm gonna butcher it, but I think it's like a Durchschelt, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head,
it's
not having
it's
the weapon
German.
in front of me.
It's German for Sleeping Beauty.
German for Sleeping Beauty, yeah.
Sleeping Beauty is also a Tchaikovsky piece.
Correct. But the message is also signed E, which, of course, for a lot of us, I have a hard time thinking that is anything but Elsie at that point. Like, with who we're dealing with like who we've seen and so on. I don't know of like a lot of other E's that are showcased except for like Aphrodite if we want to go down that Spinfoil road. And even then, I don't think that would fit properly. It just would make a ton of sense. unless, of course, Aphrodite diverges and re-diverges into being Aphrodite from Elsie. Again, Spinfoil, it's really not in any way confirmed whatsoever. The biggest pieces, though, from this log, however, the largest thing that I know really gets Blue and I kind of ramped up, especially, I would have no life without Anna or the EXO program.
God. So many divergent threads on that line alone.
Yeah, seriously. So last night, and I may as well plug them here for a little bit. If you guys want to listen to the theory more in full and just hear like a couple of minds get blown just for the fact that this theory has not been presented, I think, globally yet. But I was on with Just Some Guardians last night, which is Elmer Fudd and crew. And it was really cool to just sit and talk with lore for them for about 2 hours. But that said, we ended up getting into this little theory that Blue and I had that it kind of picked into with how the Hive were there before Rasputin was there. And when you start to think about it like that, you also start to wonder, well, maybe the Exos had a reason for being built more than just somebody wanted to be alive forever. And you start to go down these other different paths that start to create and coalesce and so on. And Blue, I don't know how far we really want to go down that tangent.
It's such a tangent.
We'll be here for a while.
Oh my! I think. Oh man, I'm trying to remember. Have we ever on an episode actually gone fully and explained this? I know it was an after show conversation originally.
I think if you may have gone into it in part, but I don't think you guys have gone into it fully. I think we should touch on Anna before we circle back and do that.
Well, and all of this still like heavily deals with Anna to begin with, so that's what I wanted to kind of be sure of anyway, because she, realistically, like any of the Clovis that are there, would have like heavy implication for like knowing what is going on underneath Mars, which is the scary portion, I guess you could say. But I'll get to that, I guess, in a little bit. But yeah, Elsie is, of course, who I have focused on, and I think for a lot of like lore theorists, they've focused on for a long time for obvious reason, especially now knowing like who she is and whatnot, has been very important to like how Destiny as a whole has developed and changed over time. So extremely, extremely important to know at this point that Elsie, I would probably say like 99.9% per this point, has been confirmed as the Exo Stranger. Which, of course, plays back towards like Anna Bray herself then. The other most important member of what we've had in Warmind. And how does she kind of coalesce back with Elsie, obviously outside of just a name? How does she move back in with like Willa or Clovis himself, and so on? And it comes down to the fact that she seems like a very skilled engineer as well. She's picked into her abilities to create even weaponry. It seems like she's dabbled in, of course, with like the Polaris lance and everything. But for her largest, of course, achievements have been more related towards than I
Rasputin.
can't remember exactly what she does call herself, which is terrible of me.
Cryptolinguist.
Cryptolinguist, yeah. I always want to say a neurolinguistic, but that's also wrong. But a cryptolinguist, which basically tries to help out Rasputin in knowing what it is that's actually like how he should gauge himself, his moral code, and so on. That's who basically builds those parameters was Anna Bray herself.
Well, I think the super interesting way that she did it, which if any of you are following me on Twitter, I'm reading the Brandon Sanderson books, this Stormlight series or Stormlight Chronicles, and the Spren learn by absorbing human different things. And they actually become more and more cognizant. It reminded me so much of how Rasputin learned, because Rasputin learned, not only just like wrote words and the rules for it, but also learned it through art absorption and music and
Shakespeare.
culture. Yeah, I mean, he's got
Telling his first joke.
right, which is quite terrifying, frankly.
Telling his first
Oh,
not joke.
It was
But
a terrifying
no,
joke.
because
quality. I don't think you
no,
guys.
because
appreciate
like
that.
Green, wasn't it Green that you went and you found that it like you explained it to us, like it's
It
an
is an
actual
actual-
joke.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but maybe
It was a joke that doesn't really have a joke, and the punchline makes no sense, etc.
right.
I
It's a
can't remember.
type. It's a
the
type
name.
of joke. Yes.
Right.
Give me a second, and I'll go find it again.
Obviously, migraines make my memory recognition skills a little on the lower side. But yeah, Anna is super key, and of course how all of that plays together, and like how Rasputin is now formed up, and so on. And she's also, I don't want to say partially to blame for the fact that Rasputin turns into the way that he is, but he's the one that basically, or she's the one that basically like turns him into the AI that he is.
Yeah, she
Now,
shows him. She
additionally-
shows him the way.
Yeah, basically. Which,
I totally did not mean to say that, but I just
yeah,
realized that I said that.
Yeah, you did. I'll let that pass for now. The largest, I guess, the largest portions though come back to the fact that like Anna knew what kind of stuff she wasn't able to bridge and give to Rasputin. But this is just to say, as much as I don't necessarily now enjoy the character, especially with like what we found out with like the Warmind comic and like how she just kind of ran off. As much as I don't necessarily personally like the character of Anna Bray now as much as I did before, I still do appreciate the fact that she is or was extraordinarily intelligent in order to teach this now thing that has possibly larger amounts of knowledge and knowledge base than any of us could even hope to fathom, and that is all due in part to like what she was able to place with her learnings and understandings of the Golden Age, and then also like knowledge and understanding of like how the light works and so on. Because again, the thing we learned from Failsafe that I think also kind of falls back towards what Rasputin is also made out of. She has this idea where she has to sit back and think about like who created her, and she comes to the conclusion that the Traveler is her father. And in that respect, it very well could be that Rasputin may have come to that same possible understanding, but changed it in terms of like how his thinking and moral implications and codes would have also altered over time. So all these different things that kind of tie together, but don't all at the same time. It's like destiny or something.
Oh. I found the type of joke he tells.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know if you wanted to read that or not, but I will. It is called a non sequitur. I'll just read it verbatim here. This is an especially fun type of joke because it uses nonsense. Non sequitur is a Latin term that means it does not follow. A non sequitur is when you try to connect 2 points that have nothing to do with each other. One of the most famous non sequitur jokes was written by the author Lewis Carroll in his book Alice in Wonderland, when he asked, "How is a raven like a writing desk?" There is no right answer here because a raven and a desk have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Many people have offered their own answers, and each one makes less sense than the last. Like this one, because there's a B in both. Neither word has a B in both in it.
So
Yeah,
the
both
Rasputin joke, if you guys don't remember, was two quantum entangled particles walk into a neutron star. One said, "Can you point me towards the soap radio?" That's the joke. But yeah, Rasputin does not tell jokes very well.
Well, he does and he doesn't all at the same time.
Mhm.
We'll say that his humor is an acquired taste.
At least he doesn't make you do riddles.
Oh,
gonna say,
Blaine is a pain.
I've been watching Gotham a little bit off and on, and all I can think of is freaking Edward Nygma whenever you say that now.
I'm stuck on Dark Tower with Jay now.
That's,
Blaine is a pain.
And how do they beat him?
With the non sequitur joke.
Right.
It's amazing. It's the best way to beat Blaine.
Which is terrifying that Rasputin can figure that out.
Yeah, that makes Rasputin worse than Blaine. Confirmed. Uh-oh.
Does it, though? Kidding.
I think you guys should dive into your Anna Bray, Elsie Bray, Hive.
Oh, are we there? Are we there now?
I think we're pretty much.
I mean,
Anna.
Chat wants to hear it.
Where do we want to begin with this one? Because my goodness.
Well, I think so. Let's start. Oh man, that is a really good question. So this is a bit of a winding. I would hesitate to even simplify this as call it a rabbit hole. This is kind of a rabbit warren. Yeah. And there's what's up?
Did you guys do you remember this question that started you down this? That may be a good place to start.
I don't know if there
was there a question? I think it was.
Was it?
I think the largest thing that really started to build from this was the thing that Deej had said about how Wayland Yutani and everything is kind of what the buildup is on Clovis Bray. And that just seems like how everything kind of started out for us. Because Deej, if you're not familiar, Deej dropped a bomb on our heads during the live stream that basically said that Clovis Bray is very similar to Wayland Yutani or the Tyrell Corporation, and both of these have some extremely nasty implications within the sci-fi world. To just cover them real fast or touch base on what they are, Wayland Yutani is linked up with the Alien franchise. Tyrell is linked up with the Blade Runner franchise. And if you know anything about them, there really isn't anything that sounds very good about it all. One, of course, is that the Wayland Yutani group is looking for information on what the xenomorphs are, the aliens that exist within the franchise. If you're not familiar, I don't know how you are at this point listening to this podcast. And then with Blade Runner, they created robots, effectively robots anyway, more synthetic automatons that basically could mimic how humans could act and handle, and it was one of those things where they were trying to understand themselves.
And that's what I was about to say. Tyrell developed replicants.
Replicants. Yes.
They developed replicants that were so advanced that the replicants didn't know that they were replicants.
Yeah.
That's the degree to which Tyrell was kind of the trouble. That's the trouble with Tyrell. And that's also where you get the Blade Runners, which is the title of the movie. It's actually based off the Philip K. Dick short story, Do Androids Dream of Electronic Sheep? Which is an amazing, if you have not read that short story, I cannot strongly recommend reading actually any of his works. They all deal with Asimov level type psychology questions about artificial intelligence. But Tyrell was to kind of present Tyrell and then Wayland also, their catchphrase, Tyrell's was more human than human, and it was genetic replicants. And then the way you, or the company, which is what Wayland Yutani Corporation was kind of shortened to, was simply building better worlds. And really, I think, Green, that's where I think Beard and I kind of hesitate. I don't think there was a question as much as it was that, and then combined with the information that we gain from Warmind, and really the only way of making the presence of Zol and Nokris make sense with regards to like, oh, they're underneath Rasputin. It's like,
Right.
who got there first? Was it the chicken or the egg, right? And it really, the only way this makes sense in a logical way is like, they had to be there first. There really is no way to kind of split the hairs on that, because there is such a massive amount of Hive underneath that ice that it's not something that could have snuck by. You know, I mean, you can say a lot of things about Clovis, but I don't think he would have, you know, or they would have missed that many Hive just suddenly appearing. And then also the fact that they're described as a festering, you know, basically graveyard.
Right.
And then, and this is where the leaps and connections start happening. So I'm going to reiterate again, this is a massive nest of Spinfoil. Like, this is a big theory. This is not really, there's nothing in the lore that confirms it straight out. It's just assumptions from the information that we've been given.
There's just so much fact that backs it up that it's like really hard to say that it's not fact. Like, it's one of those things with like the other theory that I've been working on for now, how many months now, Green?
The other Clovis Bray theory?
The other big Clovis Bray theory, where like I've been trying to find information that counteracts it, and every time I think I find something, I think about it further, or I think about it in a different light or something else, and I'm like, no, this fits exactly what we're trying to do here. Or it at least helps it along, or doesn't disprove it enough. You know, that's the thing about most of these theories now with Clovis Bray. And I think Purple, you had actually said earlier in the week, you had said like Clovis Bray is entirely like unnecessary for like the lore as a whole in Destiny right now, but as a backstory piece and like what it is that they've been putting themselves together as, or what it seems like Bungie's trying to do, they've just developed into this Hive nest, if you will, of ridiculous connections that have now started to purport themselves.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the thing about it is that it's Clovis Bray is never going to be in the top 5 things that any given person is going to come onto Ishtar Collective and search for, right? Like, when you just run through the story mission, that's not what's going to come up.
They might be after I go ahead and say this theory.
If they listen to the podcast, but if they listen to your podcast, they've probably already been on my website. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
Dang.
So, but that's what I really meant by that. Like, we write the summaries on the site for people who are trying to understand the lore for the first time on a surface level, and so it's hard to pick and choose what to include, because of course I, like you guys, are really deep into it, and I think everything is important at some level because I want all the information forever, but I have to recognize that it's not always the case at first.
Right.
So, to kind of steal, the very first thing that you have to understand is really the connection with Wayland is very important. Tyrell, the connection to Tyrell kind of comes in with the Exoscience more than anything, but the really big crux of this kind of pet theory of ours is based around what Wayland Yutani is. For those who might have, only seen the movies and might not be aware of, the Alien vs. Predator universe is an immense universe. So just keep that in mind. Like, there are tons of extra, expanded universe works in the AVP universe that explain actually this entire thing that I'm about to kind of summarize. So Weyland-Yutani is basically a mega corporation. We kind of talking about that earlier about that in this episode. Weyland actually had an hostile takeover of Yutani early on in the series, and that's where the Weyland-Yutani name was originated. Now, when they did that, what they did was they also overtook some things that Yutani was responsible for, and they kind of expanded on that. One of those or actually two of those divisions that are very important in the movies are the bioweapons division and the reverse engineering division. So in the movies, in the Alien series or in the Predator series, basically all that technology that Weyland has is all basically due to reverse engineering from what's called Yatsha technology. Now, the Yatsha are the Predators. So what happens is, and if I remember correctly, it was a shoulder gun that the Weyland got a hold of. And so for those who don't know what I'm talking about, there is a separate series that is connected to the Alien series called Predator. It's a great sci-fi. If you haven't seen it, I mean, obviously strongly recommend you go watch it. But
it's got Arnold in there.
It's got Arnold in it. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's a classic. Like, it's just a classic. You should go watch it. But one of the things that they do is they introduce a new, quote, air quote, new species in the Alien or AVP universe called the Yatsha, or the Predators, or the Hunters. And what these characters basically are they are exactly that. They're predators. They're hunters of the xenomorphs. What they use as basically they're a hunter culture. And what they do is their coming of age ritual is basically to send the young out into space, and they are ultimately tasked with hunting down xenomorphs. There's a huge story that actually explains everything that I'm not going to get into, but long story short, what happens is there is a predator who comes to Earth in a hunt for his rite of passage, and in the process is defeated, and they actually get part of his technology. This is a problem because basically what happens is Weyland-Yutani gets a hold of this, and they reverse engineer a whole slew of technology from this. This is a very, again, you've probably heard me and Beard comment about, Lost in Space, Altered Carbon. There's a lot of sci-fi tropes that are based around the reverse engineering of alien technology to explain a sudden advancement of human tech. Weyland-Yutani basically does everything and they have an entire division that's called the Reverse Engineering Division. And this entire division of their corporation is focused on the study and implementation of recovered Yatsha technology. What that then leads into is the development of a bioweapons division. And what the bioweapons division is they're tasked with basically hunting down the xenomorphs, and they're trying to figure out, they're basically the reason they're a bad guy in the movie series is because the entire series is them trying to obtain a viable specimen of the xenomorph species, whether that is a face hugger or a chest burster or a queen. And ultimately they're going for a queen, and that, obviously is not the best idea, for any of you who know what that means. For those who don't know what that means, the queens are the giant, the classic xenomorph with the extended heads. Those are just pawns. The queen is like 10 times that size. And that's kind of where the movies kind of present the main character, Ellen Ripley, in the Alien series. She becomes basically the enemy, I guess would be the best word for it. She becomes an enemy of the bioweapons division of Weyland-Yutani because basically she gets caught in the middle between these two, and she keeps killing the xenomorphs. That's basically what happens. She keeps killing all the specimens that they try to kidnap. So that's Weyland-Yutani in a really, really badly explained, simplified nutshell. When you apply that to Clovis Bray, and you understand that Clovis Bray is sitting within the futurescape on top of a Hive burial ground, you can already start seeing where the wheels start turning here. Clovis Bray is responsible for an immense amount of technological development. They're sitting on top of a alien race that has been around for millennia, if not eons, and has access to technology that even today in the Destiny universe we don't understand. They also have minds such as Willa Bray, who from the data static structure of rocks was able to invent a fifth form of material or of matter. So yeah, like you're presenting these brilliant minds with this ancient culture that is superiorly advanced, and there's no surprise that you're going to also kind of see the connection here, that we're thinking that there's a lot of reverse engineering going on here. Then you also get the idea that, you know, you have characters such as Elsie, who is best friends with, supposedly, I don't remember if this is ever confirmed, but it kind of seems like she's best friends with Maya and Shioma.
At least Maya, it seems like.
Yeah, was it Maya that? Yeah.
Connection. There's no confirming, I think, who
they never name dropped. I don't think they ever name dropped it. Now that I'm thinking about it, but anyway, she has a strong connection with Ishtar, which is doing the exact same thing with the Vex, and that's where Elsie starts getting really interesting, because Elsie actually is able to take Vex technology and merge it with Hive technology. And this is where you kind of see the, and you know, Purple, you were kind of mentioning the jealousy of Willa. There's something going on with Willa and Elsie, and that's where you get, what's the sword? The world.
Oh, Line Zero.
Yeah. That entire development of that sword is Elsie trying to keep it away from Willa. That's why she locks it away in the little what's
locker.
A hoozy? The little locker that you have to unlock. Is it 35 fragments to get the sword, and then 45 fragments for the sparrow? But that's why she locks it away, because it's not ready to take it off world, which, you know, that there's a whole different tangent that we can go down on that one. But basically what it all comes down to is Clovis Bray is actively reverse engineering, reverse researching dead Hive, knowing full well what they're dealing, or knowing full well that they are playing with powers that are beyond human, you know, intelligence at this point, even with the Golden Age stuff. And then all of a sudden you start realizing, hey, these are alien species. Anyone who's seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of maybe imagining where this goes, you know, what happens when they start playing with dead Chitauri in the Marvel universe? Well, people start getting sick because it's a xenovirus. These are viruses that we've never even imagined. Like, they're potentially extra galaxy viruses.
If you need other relation to it more in history, think about like Cortez going to the Aztecs and basically wiping out an entire civilization based on the fact that they had viruses that they were not familiar with or could counter.
Yeah, there are basically two options when you encounter alien like bio microbes, which is like nothing because they can't interface with our bodies, or complete annihilation.
Yeah. War of the Worlds, people. War of the Worlds. Everyone hated the ending, but it made perfect sense.
It really did.
If you ever get invaded by an alien species, make them drink the water. But and so. Or birds. Oh God, the birds! Oh, the birds! I forgot. I did forget about the birds.
You're welcome.
That's not that scary.
No, it's not scary. Welcome. It was just like, it's just one of those things where it's like, really.
I'm gonna do this.
Like,
now.
Isn't Jaws scary? Just stay out of the water. Like, that's not that scary. Like, oh, it's a horror movie about a killer train. Don't go on the tracks.
So this kind of leads into a culmination of where we see this message from Elsie to our Guardian. So again, this is another big NPC directly messaging our Guardian. We saw this with Saint 14. Now we're seeing it with Elsie, or the Stranger. And basically she makes the comment, I would not be alive if it wasn't for Anna and the Exoscience program. Yeah. Well, hang on. What does that mean? And you also have to go back to Destiny 1, where you have the Exo ghost fragment, where it's like, you know, maybe what someone was trying to do was live forever. We had always read that. We'd always read that as this narcissistic drive for immortality. And this is kind of where Beard and I were just, I think we were, exhausted, and which is not uncommon for us. We were kind of loopy when we were talking about it, but we kind of stumbled on this idea of like, well, wait, hang on. What if it's not necessarily narcissism? What if in researching these biological forms in Purple, this goes back to, well, there's only two options, right? It starts annihilating humanity. It starts annihilating the researchers, and Elsie is researching the Hive. So what if Elsie's one of the ones that gets sick? What if the entire Sisyphus project or the entire Exoscience project is actually geared around finding a way to allow these human scientists to survive? It's not a narcissistic, evil concept. It's a desperate attempt to stave off the death of people who Clovis or whoever has actually brought into his family and brought into his fold. And that presents this whole new dynamic to Clovis, because up until now, everyone's always assumed Clovis is this bad guy. Clovis wants to live forever. Clovis is this megalomaniac. Well, what if that's not the case? What if Clovis is just trying to save his scientists?
Isn't that always how it starts?
Oh, right. No.
Oh, sure.
No, I am not. And that's where I kind of shift blame to Willa a little bit too, because that's where kind of my opinion of Willa starts darkening, because I think Willa, that also could explain some of the jealousy that we've kind of been dancing around. If they're willing to go the lengths to, and again, in case you didn't catch this, all supposition. Yep. But sorry, chat's asking, which Clovis Bray are we chatting about? I'm chatting about Senior, not Clovis Bray 2. But
not Alton.
Yeah, or Alton, according to Justin. But it basically was a conversation in which we kind of were presented with a variable or a variant option as to the cause of the Exoscience program that wasn't an evil, or a selfish one,
I never believed it to be I never believed the origins of it to be sinister, or
I guess sinister is a bit strong, but like selfish, it's like, because when you read the Ghost Fragment Exo card, or is it Exo or Exo 2? Whichever Ghost Fragment the card is, it basically is like talking about, why did someone create the Exo? It makes no sense, blah, blah. My only thought is someone wanted to live forever. Well, kind of is, it's presented in a cynical, it's definitely presented in a cynical tone.
I always perceived it to be selfish, but not selfish on a personal scale, selfish on a humanitarian scale. Selfish for the human race, not necessarily selfish for one person.
Right. Well, and again, that's kind of where Beard and I were coming from, is like, we've always read it as that, but what if it actually was what if it actually was a desperate attempt to save someone's life?
Yeah. Someone dear to him.
Yeah. Which would also kind of tie into like the Sisyphus project, which is why he was so adamant about it, which I think actually, now that I'm thinking about that off the top of my head, Sisyphus project was more about the Landshoe machine, right? If I remember.
Yeah.
Which, again, kind of ties into Elsie, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
we have Elsie talking about the
Clovis,
bridge.
Like just like everything else that we kind of talk about with Clovis, everything sort of ties back on itself too. That's pretty typical. So even though they're researching one thing for one reason, they turn around and research another thing for another reason, and it all kind of falls into place and falls into line, especially with the new info we have here, especially if we want to take some of this more as like, even if it is supposition, is a little bit more towards fact. Just with the amount of evidence that is sitting in line with us that we're able to find.
So let me just ask the two of you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the super user?
In what exactly are you referring to?
I'm looking at World Line 0.
The World Line 0 bit.
It's got to be Elsie, right? Because it says well, the user in the query is L Bray.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But
I've
no,
always
the super user is someone else who's redacting the message has been removed, directory changed to root, sudo rm rs /
Right.
sudo enter password for super user. So someone's hijacked this.
No, I think
Oh, yeah.
that's Elsie. Elsie's wiping
Is
the
that Elsie?
terminal. Elsie's
Yeah,
wiping the
like I'm gonna
terminal.
say-
So she opened up the terminal. So like if you break it down, or sorry, Beard, if you break it down, she logs in, she opens her mailbox. She has one message from Willa, and that's the creepy little "let's have a chat" and blah blah blah. And then she deletes all the messages, and then she goes to the CD. She goes to the root menu. She then goes to the sudo thing and wipes the entire freaking file. And then she deletes 1,452,831 files and then log out. Oh no, there's no shell. You can't log out because there's nothing to log. I mean, she basically drag drops her C drive into the delete folder.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
I was just I was looking at have y'all ever gone into what exactly a world line is?
I don't think we've gone fully into
Yeah,
it now.
no,
I know
it's-
some have explored it, but
Yeah, it's an actual scientific phenomenon. It's
Right.
basically like an orbit or a trajectory, but taking into account space time. So it's adding the time dimension to the spatial relations. of
Isn't that-
something. So,
Isn't that like the concept of was it Einstein with the piece of paper that he like
Yeah,
shows like it curves or something?
yeah, well, it's the typical folding the piece of paper, the black hole.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I thought it was kind of interesting that it's called World Line 0.
well, it's to suggest that ours is the line that I guess Elsie does travel is the original, or supposed original, or is the one that she has found that actually works and makes it out in the end. There's a lot of possibilities that exist with why that is actually called the 0. But it would be the one that in the end is in some way related towards her existence and like her right to be, or like where she comes from, so on.
Yeah.
Could it be something to do with multiverse?
Well,
Well-
that was the other thing I was going to mention, is it also kind of falls back on like a Planet of the Apes sort of idea.
Right.
too.
Yeah.
Either
Sorry,
with,
that's where I was
with
going.
time travel, or like how that would kind of fall in and so on.
Or was it Heinlein, Methuselah's children?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's another good one.
Each point actually in a world line is an event that can be labeled within time and space.
Yes.
So
Gosh, I just got like flashes of Doctor Who.
Uh-huh.
so World Line 0,
Timey-wimey indeed.
Yeah.
World Line 0 presumably is the genesis of that timeline, or what the
Well, it's like what Future War Cult deals with all the time, too, when you start talking like multiple timeline theories and so on. Whether they're visiting them or seeing them, that's the overall question to kind of analyze and so on. I feel like we kind of got off topic from like where we were with the Hive theory, but I know it still kind of falls back on like how the Hive and Vex Tech were kind of like crossing together, like commingling and so on.
basically,
So-
Elsie figured out how to cross the streams
Yeah, basically.
without
which,
blowing everything up.
Which, as a side note, is kind of the big thing to point out here. Like, Ishtar and Clovis, we say that they work together, but they actually had a thing where they didn't want to work together.
Oh yeah.
They actually had it to the point with they actually had it to the point where they had to fall back and say, well, we don't want to have our technology bridge or meet with their technology, because it seems like what would happen if two xenotechnologies would link up. And it makes a lot of sense when you start to, again, think about it from that perspective, that you would not want to have two pairs of unknowns linked together. That's just a big variable of what's going to blow up first, waiting to happen.
The protonic reversal.
Yeah. But those are pieces that I at least have always found kind of interesting, especially with the recent advent of the information that we have on LCN, so on, and like where they actually hook up and meet when all is said and done within their paths and lines. One seemed to focus a little bit heavier on the Hive technology, where LC seemed to eventually start to focus on the Vex technology. But when you combined the two, and you started to see this with World Line Zero, and with some of the additional technology that's used with Eon Trespass, later known as Shadow Trespass. When you also start to look at it from what Willa did with the engram, we start to think back on what had actually happened, or what we know of the technology that the Hive utilized or could utilize. What were they able to do? They were able to break the Bekenstein limit, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was something the Hive was capable of, and meanwhile we see the engram, and that is another thing that is maybe not able to break the Bekenstein limit, but
it's pretty close.
It's able to hold a whole crap ton of information.
Yeah.
So even if we are not able to mimic exactly what is going on, if the engram does happen to be linked with Hive technology in some way, shape, or form.
Oh God.
We actually had it where, I know. You already see where I'm going with
that.
The it just starts to open up this. What's that?
Sorry. I just had a brain flash of data being stored in an ascendant realm of data.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's basically space folding on itself, and okay.
It's the ultimate cloud.
It is. It's the exactly. Much. It's the ultimate cloud.
No.
Well, and another slight link up to fall back on the Wayland Yutani connection as well. I know we're kind of past that, but I had thought about it afterward, thinking about how the mainstays of the name for the xenomorph exist.
Mm-hmm.
Xenomorph. And meanwhile, the Hives take morphs in order to transform. So,
all I can think of now is the Ghost Fragment, Oceans card, which I fondly refer to, and I still will always refer to as the Facehugger card, because he dies in the egg room where things are about to hatch, and all I can see, even today, is the giant birthing chamber of the aliens.
Oh,
with it, right? But I mean, think about it. That's exactly what the little eggs boop, 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 and it's nope, you just want to die now. Don't stay around for this. This is not going to end well.
I have always gotten this vibe of they feel like aliens in how Bungie seems to have built them and changed them and so on. But the fact that the all of these possibilities are just kind of falling into place, and all of the points and facts and little name drops and so on are just pointing back to it. Again, it's really hard for me to see these as anything but compatible technologies to our own, but just crossed or back engineered in terms of how they're all put together. It's really, really difficult for me to see it.
And to kind of drive another nail into that particular situation too is the xenomorphs were known for biological self-replicating weapons.
Exactly.
which the Hive are known for their weapons that make no sense and are all, organic in design.
Right.
And then also with Wayland, I mean, I know we're kind of beating the dead horse here, but with Wayland, going back to the reverse engineering division, so kind of connecting Clovis Bray here, one of the biggest problems with Wayland was they just had absolutely zero regards for morality. Like,
oh, yeah.
they would, and I mean, that's where they kind of became it's very classic big bad corporation in science fiction. But like Yutani was like they had zero respect for human rights. And that was where you get like the entire situation with the first Alien movie, where they kind of they basically dangled a human crew out for bait with and they knew that there was no, and that's why Ripley pisses them off, is because Ripley survives. She's not supposed to survive. Doesn't the cat survive too? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That was the most important character in that entire movie, hands down. But like she survives. She not only does she survive, she kills the specimen that's there, and this keeps happening, throughout the series. So that's where the animosity between Wayland and Ripley kind of come in. Even I think Ripley's clones actually have a carry down effect of not liking Wayland. But like their reverse engineering division, with the Predator technology, they would actively, you see this and it was a terrible adaptation, but the AVP movie where it's in Antarctica, the Wayland representative is there expressly to steal the tech. Like, they don't care if anyone survives. They only care about getting that tech out of the whatever it was, like the pyramid or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna say out of the pyramid that the Yacha are like inhabiting or visit now and again. Yeah, it honestly just I know you say it as beating a dead horse. I say it as just proving the point.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Why friggin' not? If it is nothing else, it is inspirational, I think, towards like what Bungie is looking at from a story standpoint. They've gone on record to state that they've wanted to quote these kind of movies for a little while as it is. And just the fact that it all is just lining up seemingly perfectly. Again, it's so hard for me to look at this stuff in any other way now. I saw them as like these magic beings before, and realistically, if all of their technology can be taken and changed and so on to like fit our whim, and even coalesce it with studies of the light and the slippery irrealities thereof, all of it just fits this different perspective now. All of a sudden, the way that the Hive can be viewed.
Yeah, and I just posted this over in chat too. Another connection that I just realized too is between the Yacha and the Hive.
Yeah.
Justin, don't defend them.
Don't defend them. You just had Damo on last week.
So the funny thing with the Predator, with Predators, is one of the big things, and then again, another really common trope in science fiction is when we steal alien technology, well, it happens to be from an alien culture that, like, it considers that the most, like, grievous crime, it's an act of war, and it calls for the genocide of the species who stole it.
Yep.
Well, it would be interesting if that actually is the cause of the Hive being pissed at humanity. We disturbed a sacred burial ground of theirs, and not only that, we kind of cut up things and took their technology.
I wouldn't be surprised to find out that it's as simple as the movie Home. We stole the shusher from the Gorg, and they want it back, but we don't even understand why they want it back until it's just like a little mobile sperm bank. Pretty much. If you haven't seen the movie Home, that's
Jim Parsons. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a terrible TV show, but yeah.
Oh no, the TV show is legendary.
No, the TV show is terrible. Like,
dang,
terrible,
legendarily bad.
It's, oh my gosh,
It's just nonsense for nonsense's sake. So we can see why Blue. You could see why Blue would not like it.
Just a couple things otherwise to kind of tie it back to if you guys want to continue this theory and look into it on your own. There are additional pieces, one of which would end up being Nokris, that really backs up a lot of what we're talking about as well. The brood that is otherwise on Mars, and in addition, we just got some new information, of course, with Zol and whatnot with the Whisper of the Worm, Black Spindle-ish gun that just came out here. At least as far as we know today, or has been hanging around for a little while, and we just never realized it. But that being said, there are many of other threads that you can kind of look into and build off of. I know at one point or another, I will be delving into all of those threads, and I desperately have wanted to talk about that for a long time now. But every time I think that there's like a pretty little spot that I can leave the theory, Bungie just comes out with something new, and it's like, well, don't you want to add this in there? Like, you sure about that? Like, you sure you're done? Anyway, yes. It never ends. Anyway, that is all for me. I just wanted to make sure we rounded that out properly. There's a lot more than, as they say on Transformers, there's more than meets the eye.
Autobots, roll out.
Except for you, Optimus. You're dead.
Too soon. Always too soon. Also only in J.J. Abrams' world.
and the original cartoon.
Oh,
all right,
man.
you. Look, we don't have to talk about this.
Before
Okay.
a fight starts, let's do shout-outs.
I don't know where the fight's coming from. These are fact.
Oh man. All right, you. I'd like to go to bed soon. Let's do the shout outs.
Do we have Purple still with us?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Do you want to?
She's
Do you have any
asleep.
shout-outs?
Yeah, I will give a shout out to all of the wonderful people that I met at Guardian Con, and to all of you guys who I got to hug in person for the first time in a year, which was awesome, and Justin for the first time ever.
Yay.
I love you guys all, and you're amazing.
Oh, I love you too.
Love you too, dear.
By the way, Purple gives the best hugs.
Aw.
You said I gave the best hug.
You give the best boy hugs. She gives the
Oh,
best
okay.
girl hugs.
Okay. I did.
I love how
learn-
quick. I love how quick she is to be like, no.
I do.
Oh, I have siblings. I know how to be quick on my feet with that kind of
something
stuff.
in health class about us being different, so I understand now.
Wow. I don't know.
That being
Ben?
said, Green, what shout-outs do you have?
Shout out to Health Class 101. I don't even know how to keep going after that.
This went in a direction I did not expect.
Right. Me too. I would say
Xenomorphs.
my shout out is actually to the Trevor Project charity stream that's happening tomorrow that I actually won't be able to be a part of because my grandpa's 70th birthday is tomorrow. He also shares a birthday with you guys, which is kind of amazing.
July 21st.
Happy
What is
birthday.
going on?
I don't know.
It's been a week of birthdays, guys.
It's like the most
Like, this
important
week is
people. Oh my
filled
god, the
with
portal's
birthdays.
open. Sorry. I see the portal. I've been running this stupid IO mission over and over. I'm totally going for it. Anyway, my shout out is to the important men in my life, including my grandpa and Pens and Beard, and I'm going to go run this tiny timed adventure that I'm not going to survive.
Enjoy.
Beard, what about you?
I don't really. You know what? My shout outs go to migraines because they suck. No, it's really hard to follow it up with anything but like Guardian Con was a really good experience again this year for one reason or another. Regardless of what needs to be improved, but you know what? When all is said and done, we're all just there just to link up with each other, say hi, and culminate to the fact that hey, we've got a common interest and that common interest ended up raising over $2.7 million for
Yeah.
So if that's what it takes, then so be it. But such a good event. Awesome just to see, like I said, everybody there. Just awesome to link up with each other again, to share minds, interests, and so on. It's very hard to not make that the focal point about what last week was, aside from it being for the kids. So.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to kind of echo that, because that's really honestly the biggest thing for me right now is that and just like I had said earlier, the whole community for Focus Fire and, and Beard's community and just the lore community in general. It's been really cool seeing all the stuff that you guys have done and how welcoming and just kind you all have been. But yeah, that's pretty much my shout out. So we'll run through an outro real quick. And for those who are curious, I believe we are going to be regaled. What?
Whoa. I don't get shout outs.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I was going to let you do the whole, oh no. Okay. Yep. Go for it.
Yeah. No. Come along, afterthought.
Now he's gonna be all offended.
Wow, that's a new low.
I think we have a new intro for Justin.
Yeah,
and the afterthought of the show.
And the afterthought with Justin. No. To echo what Blue said. No.
Make it a big deal. I'm gonna say the same thing. All right.
No. Honestly, I'd like to give actually a couple specific shout outs. I mean, all the broad that everyone else said, I echo them completely. Specific shout outs, I'd like to shout out Pins and Green for making sure I got back to Texas. And I would also like to shout out, it's kind of crazy because I didn't go last year. So I didn't get the organic growth from our first year Guardian Con to our second to our third. So I got the first one, and then I missed last year, and then got this one. And I think our first one, I signed 2 autographs. And then this one, it was like in like 30, 35, somewhere in there. So it was like crazy to me. The support for the show has grown like crazy. And I can't remember everybody's name, but there's a bunch of them. Dude for Zombies, Matt Grundy, and
Shay.
Yeah, Shay. I think there was a fellow named Noah. There's a bunch. It was really cool. And next year I'm actually going to bring my own book. And when you ask me for my autograph, I'm gonna make you sign mine with all your names on it, so I can shout you out. So yeah, no. If you think hot dogs are not sandwiches, you get no shout outs. But yeah, no, just everyone who I spoke with who was, passionate about the show. That's freaking awesome. And then just a quick shout out for a friend of the show, Jake Myler. Mm-hmm. Because he made me the hero around my house, because my son is a giant fan of his, and he's been running around all week long showing everybody his signed copy of Watermelon Exo that with his name signed, and Jake drew a little watermelon face. So he's super psyched for that, and he's super proud his dad knows Watermelon Exo. So yeah, check him out, by the way. If you don't know about Watermelon, check it out. It's pretty awesome. He's good people.
All right. So now we're going to run through an outro, and then we will allow Justin to regale live chat with the story of how he lied to a waitress.
It's got intrigue, it's got lies, it's got food, it's got all.
With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.focusfirechat.com. Thank you again, Purple, for joining in on the conversation. I'll be sure to get your contact information up in our show notes for anyone who wants to continue chatting with you. Please be sure to email us at focusfirechat@gmail.com with any comments or questions for our team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. Also, be sure to check out all of our amazing partner podcasts within the Guardian Radio Network over on theguardiansofdestiny.com. So until next time, focus your fire, and may your light shine bright.
Just cut me off.